Going on to the main event, it's been kicking our asses, but it's been kicking all the favorites' asses. Bobby, underdogs in the 11 main events in 2024 have won 7 of the 11 fights.
I'm glad you're keeping track because that actually gives me a lot more confidence in my pick for this.
Take it away.
All right, thank you. Chris Curtis versus Brendan Allen. This is actually a rematch. These two have already faced each other once before, and here's some more fun stuff about this. So, a big narrative going into this fight is Chris Curtis has the KO TKO win over Brendan Allen when they first met each other. Fun fact, Chris Curtis trains at Extreme Couture out of Las Vegas, Nevada, with Eric Nixick as his coach, and who's one of his main sparring partners? Sean Strickland.
Yep.
Sean Strickland also has a win over Brendan Allen by KO TKO.
Yep.
So, huge narrative coming into this fight. And Brendan Allen has even made notice of it and brought it up going into the first fight with Chris Curtis to the point where he got relentlessly trolled by Curtis and Strickland because Brendan Allen was trying to say that he was public enemy number one at Extreme Couture, to which Chris Curtis, before the first fight, responded, "Nobody's worried about you and nobody even knows who the hell you are." So that's got to be pretty debilitating mentally to go into a fight with a guy who's already KO TKO'd you. His main training partner and sparring partner has already KO TKO'd you. Their coaches have already spent all this time preparing for you twice now. This would be the third time that their team goes up against you after all this game planning, all this preparation, these 2 wins they have over you. And all that being said, that's why I'm a little surprised that Allen is such a heavy favorite at minus 218 and Chris Curtis is at a plus 180. Now, I know what you're thinking. Chris Curtis isn't exactly a world beater. He's another guy who's very streaky, very hot and cold, et cetera, et cetera. But here's my line of thinking. Here's some food for thought with this. So, Brendan Allen's trying to say that the KO TKO Chris Curtis has over him is a fluke. I kind of disagree because after watching that fight again, what I saw when I watched that fight was I saw Chris Curtis pressuring the hell out of Brendan Allen, constantly had him up against the fence. Brendan Allen did not try to circle out. And when he did, he took his sweet ass time trying to circle out, get back to the middle, and regain his distance. He constantly was just not aware that his back was to the fence, and Chris Curtis capitalized on that pretty damn well with body shots, head shots, mixing up the shots very well, choosing them carefully, using the right amount of power on them, pulling the power when he felt like he didn't have a good shot, really doing a very surgical, damn near breakdown of Brendan Allen. And some things that kind of give me pause in thinking that Brendan Allen can pull this off in the rematch. He has a blueprint. His blueprint is he needs to do exactly what Jack Hermanson did. And he was doing a little bit of it in the first fight with Chris Curtis. Brendan Allen was. He was throwing the body kick that Chris Curtis is prone to on, I believe it's the left side. Curtis is a sucker for that left body kick. It's always there. So he was throwing it. He was half-ass throwing the high kick that he's also susceptible to. So I think Brendan Allen can take the rematch if he is just like Hermanson. Hermanson was dedicated to not staying up against the cage. As soon as he had the realization that he was up against the cage, immediately damn near running to get off the cage. That's what you need to do against Chris Curtis. You cannot let Chris Curtis come forward on you and back you up because he's going to tee off on you. And he was throwing damn near nothing but kicks, constant calf kicks. Brendan Allen needs to do the calf kick. That heavy boxing stance that Chris Curtis has leaves him very susceptible to calf kicks. Brendan Allen hardly threw the calf kick. More body kicks. Spam the body kick. Once he gets used to the body kick, he starts trying to block that. Then you go up high and you set up the high kick. And that keeps him guessing. He doesn't know whether it's going to be a body kick or a high kick, and you can try to get a finish that way. I think a key to this is a 5-round main event. I saw Brendan Allen getting tired in that first fight because of all the body shots Chris Curtis was throwing. It was a war of attrition, and he's got an extra 2 rounds to work with. And if he starts teeing off on Allen with those body shots like he was in the first fight, he's going to get tired a lot faster, and it's going to be a repeat of the first fight. So Allen really needs to take all those pages out of Hermansson's book. Don't let himself get pressured against the cage. Throw as many kicks as he can, especially way more calf kicks, way more body kicks. Mix up the head kick with the body kick. Keep them guessing. And the grappling, he's got like 4 back-to-back-to-back rear naked choke wins right now, Brendan Allen does. But I'm concerned because when he tried to do the grappling exchanges against Chris Curtis, it actually really bit him in the ass. There was one point at the end of the round, I think it was round 2 or 1, I can't remember, where Allen couldn't really get the takedown, so he fell back to threaten an ankle lock, and he ended up getting reversed, and the round ended with Curtis on top of him for the majority of it. So, Curtis won off control time alone based off that. And the only other takedown attempt that Allen shot, Curtis pretty much got back up to his feet, no problem. So I feel like that's his main way to win is through grappling. And I just don't know that he's going to be able to get the grappling off on Chris Curtis, because I get the first fight was 2021. So it's been a few years now, but I don't know how much can change in terms of his takedowns and everything to be able to get Curtis down. I think it's still primarily he's going to be forced into a position where it's going to be a striking battle. And he's just got so much he has to do to radically change his game plan that I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to make those changes and be able to stick to them, especially once he does start getting pressured. It's going to be very telling in the first round how he handles that pressure, and if he has a repeat of the first fight and doesn't adapt to it, or if he doesn't throw those kicks, because I don't think he's going to be able to rely on the threat of his takedown. Hermansson was able to, because he was able to stay off the fence and use all those kicks, but I don't know if Allen's going to do that. I think Allen's just going to kind of get desperate at times, and especially if he's getting tired over the course of 5 rounds and he's getting winded with those body shots, I just don't like the odds. And it's a very tough fight. It's extremely tough, but Allen at minus 218, Curtis at plus 180, and Allen by subs only at 175 plus 175. Curtis by KO TKOs at plus 300. I'm not a Curtis fan at all, and I bitched about him a lot recently with how ridiculous he's been in his fights and how shit like the Jack Hermansson fight happens to him, and he just doesn't have an answer other than to throw a temper tantrum. But then he also has fights like, where he brutalizes Brendan Allen, one of the young, bright prospects in the middleweight division. And he's just so damn hard to get a read on. But to wrap it up, sure, Chris Curtis plus 180. I don't think it goes to decision, because if it goes to decision, he's going to lose anyway. I don't think he's going to get the sub. So I think he gets another KO TKO. I just think it's going to be really hard for Allen to adapt to what he brings to the table, especially with all the time and preparation his team's had for Allen. They definitely have a leg up in that. Plus 300 KO TKO Chris Curtis. What do you think, Ben?
I don't disagree with a single thing you said. And isn't it so bad that when we say that, we know something bad's coming?
I know, man.
I 100% agree.
And it's hard. It is a hard fight.
It is. I'm looking at it, and you're absolutely right. They have the game plan. The coaches, the fighters themselves. Strickland's knocked him out. Curtis has knocked him out. Now we're coming in. Curtis is the heavy underdog. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Chris Curtis just lost to Gastelum, which was kind of a weird fight to me. I can't believe he lost to Gastelum.
Yeah, it's the crazy shit like that.
Yeah. He's got some slow feet. Where I'm looking at Brendan Allen, he'll stand and bang. He wants to get the takedowns, though. He could win on the ground. He's got great movement. And now I know I'm really looking at this from the Vegas standpoint. So you got Chris Curtis that already has the win. He's coming in as a huge underdog. And everybody knows about how him and Sean Strickland are buddies and how they both have wins over him. But you're making him at a plus 180, and then the public is 61% of bets, 84% of the money. So you're telling me that Vegas is choosing to pay out 84% of the money of the bets at almost 2 times. I know that the public took Vegas to the cleaners with this March Madness. Right here is another perfect example where they could do the same thing. Whereas if Allen wins, that's 16% of the money that you're paying out at a 2-to-1 price. Vegas knows something, and I feel like Allen. I don't know. We see the line too. It's at 2.5. So we looked at the last 2 fights, 4.5, both went over. And I think the one before that was 1.5. And who was that? That was Tuivasa Tybura. Under 1.5. It didn't even get past the first. Now we got this one. This is a 2.5 line. So Vegas is expecting this not to go the distance. I don't expect this to go the distance. But how? Does Curtis get the knockout or does Allen finish it? It's just so weird. I have to go with Allen. And I think Allen just overall, in general, I think Allen is the better fighter. He's a more well-rounded fighter. But, God, he just keeps getting knocked out by these guys. And you and me, neither of us are big Chris Curtis fans. I like Brendan Allen quite a bit, but he gets in the cage. And like you said, he was trying to say that Chris Curtis knockout was fluky. I disagree also. He got caught. And that happens when you're against guys like this. And so if he can stay out of trouble, I want to say Brendan Allen's sub, but they don't give you very good odds on that. Brendan Allen's sub is a plus 175. So I would rather not pigeonhole myself. Maybe he catches Curtis. Maybe it goes to decision. I'd rather just get the 2-to-1 payout with the other 38% of people. Put my money in the smaller pool.
Hey, I respect you for going with Allen. Yeah, I don't disagree. You're not the first person. I was watching Sean Brady and Joe Pfeiffer apparently have a podcast called Brady Bags together or something. My only beef is they don't give you too much information, but that's like basically their only explanation for why they thought Allen was going to win was he's the better fighter. And once again, I don't disagree at all that Brendan Allen is definitely the better fighter, but what's more MMA than the better fighter not always winning? Sometimes that happens. A lot of the times that happens. And
it's already happened.
Yeah, it's happened a lot. Like on paper, I guess in theory, Blanchfield was supposed to be the better fighter than Manon, and we see how that turned out. Like crazy shit happens. Everybody thought Hernandez, going back to the Cowboy fight, was the better, younger, hype fighter. What happened there? So, yeah, it's just my whole thing is I don't think it was a fluke because what I saw was a game plan. I saw a game plan of Chris Curtis pressuring the hell out of Brendan Allen, denying his takedowns, easily reversing his takedowns, taking advantage of what is supposed to be Allen's strength, using it against him, forcing Allen to stand up with him, and then using those body shots to set up a war of attrition, which the body shot led to the finish. And I just think that's so many obstacles for Brendan Allen to overcome. And like you said, with him trying to really get the sub or, standing and banging is not an option with Chris Curtis. And I believe this is still at the apex with the smaller cage and less room to work with, instantly less room to maneuver, instantly going to get pressed against the cage. If he can do it, which it's not hard to do, which is why I can't believe he didn't do it in the first place in the first damn fight.
Right.
Shout out to, I'm going to look them up right fast because they deserve a shout out. This is the second time I've mentioned this. Chris Curtis can't turn right. If that's why Jack Hermanson had success against him, he can't follow you when the stance is an off stance with his opponent. He just refuses to follow you. He can't keep track. And he will just let you turn around and run away from him, and all he does is just bitch about it. And it's so easy to use against him. I don't know why Brendan Allen didn't, but Fight Figures. That's the podcast. Fight Figures, Chris Curtis, and the plight of turning right. And I just really hope Brendan Allen can do it, but I'm not going to pick that he will because he didn't do it the first time, and it was so easy. So
I like I said, I can't hit on anything that you said that's not correct. So
better start listening to the Better in Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? Listen in and cash out. That's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover old spot from the bottom to the top. Hey, shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome, welcome to our podcast. Better in Green.